The journey begins in the shattered remains of the historic district in Empire City, a place where the air is thick with the smell of burning rubber, ozone, and the heavy, metallic scent of wet pavement. This is the moment after the blast, a terrifying explosion that tore the heart out of the city and left a massive crater where thousands of lives used to be. This experience is defined by the weight of the gray ash, where the atmosphere is one of sudden silence and growing fear. This part of the history is a story of the delivery man, a realization that Cole MacGrath was just a simple bike messenger carrying a package he didn't understand until it exploded in his hands. The air here is sharp and carries the taste of copper, smoke, and the faint, electric tingle of a coming storm. The sound of the world is a low and constant ringing, as the ears of the survivors struggle to find a sound that isn't a scream or a siren, making the entire city feel like a colossal, wounded beast that is waiting to die in the dark. As the warrior wakes up in the center of the crater, the atmosphere shifts to one of physical confusion. He finds that his body is no longer his own, that his skin hums with a blue energy that makes his hair stand on end, and his muscles twitch with a power he cannot control. This is the era of the first spark, where the atmosphere is one of raw pain and flickering light. You see the twisted metal of the cars and the broken glass of the skyscrapers, a reminder that the world changed in a single second. This part of the history is a story of the accidental god, a realization that Cole did not ask for this power, but it has claimed him all the same. The sound of the electricity jumping from his fingertips to the ground is a sharp and hissing crack, a sign that the mountain of the city is now his to climb. Cole moves with a shaky and uncertain might, his boots crunching on the charred debris as the red glow of the fires reflects the chaos in his own mind. Deep within the ruins of the neon district, the atmosphere becomes dark, wet, and hostile. The city has been put under quarantine, and the police have been replaced by the Reapers, a gang of junkies and criminals who wear red hoodies and rule the streets with assault rifles and white-hot rage. This is the trial of the new hunger, where the atmosphere becomes one of resource scarcity and electrical greed. Cole must navigate the flooded alleys while his body begs for more energy, a realization that in a city without power, he is the only source of light. The sound of his own movement is a splash and a low hum as he drains the batteries from abandoned cars to keep his heart beating. This part of the history is a realization that to survive Empire City, Cole must become the battery. He feels the cold rain on the neck and the sharp ache of the electricity in his veins, a feeling of total and grounded hunger. At the edge of the Archer Square, the group encounters the first of the Reaper conduits, a man who has been twisted by the same blast that changed Cole, but who has let the darkness take over his mind. The fight is a story of the blue and the red. The atmosphere is violent, static, and fast, as the Reaper throws balls of fire that turn the rain into steam. This is the trial of the first choice, where the atmosphere becomes one of moral weight and quick reflex. Cole must decide if he will use his bolts to save the civilians caught in the crossfire, or if he will focus only on his own survival. The sound of the lightning hitting the pavement is a deep and final boom, making the square feel like it is ringing like a bell. When the Reaper is finally brought to his knees, the atmosphere shifts to a quiet and heavy expectation, a realization that the city is watching to see what kind of man Cole will be. Leaving the square behind, the journey leads to the rooftops of the city, a world of rusted water towers, satellite dishes, and the freedom of the high view. The atmosphere is vast, windy, and lonely, a realization that Cole can no longer walk among the people as an equal. This part of the history is a story of the urban climber, where the atmosphere is one of vertical motion and distant screams. You see the way Cole can leap from building to building, his body acting like a magnet to the metal pipes and the brick walls. The air is cool and carries the taste of salt and burnt plastic. The sound of the wind through the high wires is a high and whistling note, signaling that the roof of the world is the only place where Cole can breathe without feeling the weight of the city's judgment. The walk through the dead zones is a story of the invisible poison. You encounter the areas where the black tar from the blast has coated everything in a thick, oily sludge that makes the people sick and turns the dogs into monsters. This is a moment of raw and toxic beauty. The atmosphere is dim and hazy, a realization that the city is dying from the inside out. This part of the history is a story of the healer or the hurter, where Cole must learn that his power can either jumpstart a heart or stop it forever. The sound of the tar bubbling in the gutters is a soft and squelching note, making Cole feel solid and heavy in a world of decay. He moves with a sturdy and careful might, his hands glowing with a soft blue light as he drains the transformers to keep the darkness at bay. Deep in the heart of the neon well, the final trial of the first district takes place in a chamber of pure darkness. The atmosphere is heavy and muffled, a realization that the power grid has been sabotaged by the Reapers to keep the people in fear. This is a story of the sovereignty of the switch, where Cole must find the main breaker and return the light to the streets. The fight is a moment of spiritual impact, as Cole battles his way through a maze of pipes and wires, while his best friend, Zeke, watches from the safety of the roof. The sound of the generator starting up is a deep and rhythmic thrum, signaling that the true power is found in the ability to bring order to the chaos. The experience in the Neon District ends with Cole standing at the very top of a tall antenna, looking out at the bridge that leads to the Warren, the next part of the broken city. The smoke of the blast has led to a sovereignty of the lightning. He carries the weight of the people's hope and the silence of the dead. The atmosphere is one of quiet and electric resolve, a realization that the path to the truth is a path of becoming the storm. The focus would now shift to the sunken streets of the Warren, as the history prepared to follow the trail of the dust men into the world of the trash mountains and the broken bridges. The final legacy of the first part of Empire City is a story of the beauty in the spark. You have seen the warrior walk through the ash and the rain to find the strength within his own skin. You have felt the sting of the cold and the weight of the electricity. As the blue light of the neon district fades behind you and the first dark shadows of the Warren appear on the horizon, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The story of Infamous finds its final and grounded resolution in the first bolt of justice, leaving behind the crater for a world of metal, shadows, and the journey that continues to pulse with a life of its own. Cole leaves the broken bridge behind and steps into the Warren, a place where the city has sunk into the gray water of the bay. The streets are gone, replaced by narrow wooden walkways and piles of trash that reach as high as the rooftops. This part of the history is a story of the Dust Men, a group of people who have lost everything and now use the junk of the world to build a new, cruel kingdom. The air here is thick and smells like rotting wood and wet rust. The sound of the world is a constant splashing of the tide against the sides of old buildings. Cole moves through the maze of shipping containers, his hands glowing with a blue light that reflects off the dirty water. He sees the way the people have built homes out of old cars and refrigerators, a realization that life is trying to hold on, even in the middle of the garbage. The walk through the sunken subway is a story of the hidden paths. The tunnels are half filled with water that is dangerous to touch because of the broken wires. Cole must jump from the top of one rusted train car to another to keep his feet dry. This is a moment of total focus, where the only sound is the dripping of water from the ceiling and the low hum of his own power. He feels the damp cold on his skin and the weight of the air in his lungs. This part of the history is a realization that in the Warren, the ground is not your friend. He finds an old generator and drains the energy into his body, feeling the spark move through his veins like a warm current. The light from his hands shows the way through the dark, turning the rusted metal into a glowing path of silver and blue. At the center of the district, Cole faces a giant made of scrap metal. This is a golem, held together by a mind that can move objects from a distance. The fight is a story of the lightning against the junk. The golem throws cars and heavy pipes, creating a loud clanging sound that echoes off the brick walls. Cole has to decide if he will save the people hiding in the nearby clinic or use all his power to stop the monster. The sound of the metal hitting the pavement is a deep boom that shakes the earth. When the fight is over, the golem falls apart into a pile of useless trash, leaving the street quiet once more. Cole stands in the middle of the wreckage, his chest heaving as he looks at the damage. He realizes that the war for the city is getting harder, and that the people are starting to look at him as their only hope. The journey leads to the prison, a massive stone building surrounded by water. The Dust Men have locked the police and the survivors inside, turning the jail into a fortress. Cole climbs the outer walls, his fingers finding small cracks in the stone. He hears the shouting of the guards and the clinking of chains. This part of the history is a story of the Great Breakout, a realization that the walls were built to keep the bad people in, but now they are keeping the good people from being free. The air is salty and cold as he reaches the roof. He uses a massive blast of electricity to blow the locks off the main gate, watching as the prisoners run out into the night. The sound of their cheering is a soft chord in the wind, a sign that the light is returning to the warren. Deep in the heart of the district, Cole finds the leader of the Dustmen, an old man named Alden, who was once a rich man, but is now the king of the trash. The fight is a story of the mind against the body. Alden moves giant cranes and bridges with his thoughts, trying to crush Cole under the weight of the city. The atmosphere is heavy and full of dust as the buildings around them begin to shake. Cole moves with a fast and powerful grace, firing bolts of lightning into the heart of the metal storm. The sound of the electricity hitting the scrap is a sharp snap that clears the air. When Alden finally retreats into the shadows, Cole is left standing on top of a crane, looking out at the city. He sees the dark towers of the next district waiting for him, and he knows that the final truth is getting closer. Leaving the prison behind, Cole walks through a small park where the trees have been replaced by towers of rusted iron. He encounters a group of survivors who are trying to cook food over a small fire. They look at him with a mix of fear and wonder. He reaches out and touches a broken lamp, filling it with enough power to light up their small camp. This is a moment of simple and grounded peace. The atmosphere is quiet and warm, a realization that his power can be a gift as well as a weapon. He feels the heat of the fire on his face and the softness of the grass under his boots. This part of the history is a realization that the Warren is not just a place of garbage, but a place of people who refuse to give up. He stays with them for a moment, listening to their stories of the world before the blast. The experience in the Warren ends with Cole standing at the edge of the water, looking at the bridge that leads to the historic district. The rust and the water have taught him how to be strong when everything is falling apart. He carries the weight of the people he saved and the memories of the Junk Kingdom. The atmosphere is one of quiet and steady resolve, a realization that the path back to his old life is gone forever. He has become something more than a messenger. The focus now shifts to the tall skyscrapers and the secret society of the First Sons. He prepares to face the man who started everything, a man who knows more about Cole's power than Cole does himself. The final legacy of the Warren is a story of the strength found in the broken pieces of the world. You have seen the warrior walk through the flood and the scrap to find the light within his own heart. You have felt the sting of the salt and the weight of the metal. As the gray mist of the sunken streets fades behind you and the first dark shadows of the final district appear on the horizon, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The story of the city finds its resolution in the hand that reaches through the dark to pull someone to safety. Cole steps onto the final bridge, his boots making a solid sound on the pavement as he leaves the garbage behind and moves toward the heart of the storm. The journey moves away from the flooded alleys of the Warren and enters the historic district, the place where it all began. This is the heart of Empire City, where the tallest skyscrapers reach into the dark clouds, and the crater from the blast still glows with a strange, sickly light. This part of the history is a story of the First Sons, a secret group of men in white suits who have been hiding in the shadows for a long time. They do not use trash or red rags like the other gangs. They use high-tech drones, cloaking shields, and heavy metal armor. The air here is cold and dry, smelling of ozone and the static electricity that hangs over the empty plazas. The sound of the world is a low, mechanical hum, the sound of hidden machines watching from the rooftops. Cole walks past the hollowed-out shells of banks and museums, his boots echoing on the clean, hard pavement. He realizes that this part of the city was not destroyed by accident. It was chosen. The walk through the Ground Zero crater is a story of the deep silence. The ground is a massive bowl of melted glass and burnt stone where thousands of people disappeared in a single second. Cole stands at the very center, the spot where he was standing when the package exploded in his hands. This is a moment of total and grounded reflection. The atmosphere is still and heavy, like the air before a lightning strike. He sees the shadows of the past burned into the walls of the nearby buildings, a realization that he is the only thing left of that day. He feels the ground humming beneath his feet, the earth still vibrating with the power of the ray sphere. This part of the history is a realization that he did not just survive the blast, he was born from it. He reaches down and touches the glowing rock, feeling a surge of energy that is more powerful and more terrifying than anything he has felt before. In the middle of the district, Cole faces the First Sons in a battle for the streets. These soldiers move with a cold and perfect discipline, using energy shields that can block his lightning bolts. The fight is a story of the new against the old. The First Sons use giant robots that stomp through the parks, their metal feet crushing the benches and the statues. Cole has to use every trick he has learned, jumping between the balconies and grinding along the power lines to stay moving. The sound of the energy beams hitting the brick walls is a sharp and high-pitched whine that cuts through the air. He has to decide if he will use the power of the city to protect the last few survivors, or if he will drain the grid to give himself the strength to win. When the robots are finally destroyed, the street is covered in blue sparks and white smoke. Cole stands in the center of the road, his hands shaking with the raw power he is holding back. The journey leads to the tall clock tower in the center of the park, where a man named Kessler is waiting. Kessler is the one who gave Cole the package, the one who planned the blast, and the one who has been watching him every step of the way. Cole climbs the side of the tower, the wind pulling at his jacket as he gets higher into the clouds. He hears the clicking of the clock, gears inside the walls, a sound like a heart made of iron. This part of the history is a story of the hidden teacher, a realization that Kessler has been forcing Cole to get stronger by making his life a nightmare. The air is freezing and thin at the top of the tower. Cole looks out over the entire city, seeing the 3 districts spread out below him like a map of his own struggle. He realizes that everything he has done, every person he saved, and every enemy he defeated was part of Kessler's plan. Deep in the heart of the district, Cole finds the ray sphere, the device that caused the explosion. It is a ball of dark metal that pulses with a golden light, sitting in the middle of a laboratory, hidden beneath the streets. The atmosphere is thick and warm, the air tasting like copper and old blood. Cole has to make the most important choice of his life. He can use the ray sphere to double his power, which would kill everyone left in the district, or he can destroy it forever. This is a moment of pure and heavy moral weight. The sound of the machine humming is a deep vibration that he feels in his teeth. He looks at the device and sees his own reflection in the metal, a realization that he is no longer the man who delivered packages on a bike. He is the only one who can decide the future of the city. Leaving the laboratory, Cole walks through a park that was once full of life, but is now a graveyard of stone and wire. He encounters a woman who is looking for her lost family, her eyes filled with a tired kind of hope. He uses a small spark of his power to light the way for her, a simple act that feels more important than fighting a giant robot. This is a moment of quiet and grounded connection. The atmosphere is soft and somber, a realization that the people of the historic district are the ones who have lost the most. He feels the cold wind on his face and the hardness of the staff in his hand. This part of the history is a realization that the city is not just buildings and power lines. It is the spirit of the people who refuse to leave. He stays with the woman until she finds a safe place, listening to the sound of the distant sirens. The experience in the historic district ends with Cole standing at the edge of the crater, looking up at the sky as the rain begins to fall. The tall towers and the secret labs have taught him that power always comes with a price. He carries the weight of the secrets he discovered and the memory of the blast. The atmosphere is one of quiet and absolute resolve, a realization that the final fight is coming. He is no longer afraid of the lightning or the dark. The focus now shifts to the final showdown with Kessler, a man who seems to know the future before it happens. Cole prepares himself for the truth, even if it is a truth that will change everything he thinks he knows about himself and the world. The final legacy of the historic district is a story of the light that is found in the center of the storm. You have seen the warrior walk through the heart of the explosion and find the strength within his own spirit. You have felt the sting of the cold and the weight of the choice. As the white light of the towers fades into the night and the first signs of the final battle appear on the horizon, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. the story of the city finds its resolution in the man who stands his ground when the world tries to push him down. Cole steps into the center of the crater, his boots making a solid sound on the glass as he prepares to face his past and his future at the same time. The journey moves to the very top of the highest skyscraper in the historic district, a place where the wind is so strong it feels like it could pull the air right out of your lungs. This is the stage for the final meeting with Kessler, the man who has spent weeks pulling the strings of Cole's life like a puppet master. This part of the history is a story of the final test, a realization that everything the gangs, the tar, the trash, and the robots was just a set of hurdles built to see if Cole could jump. The air up here is thin and freezing, smelling of the clouds and the sharp, hot scent of a short-circuiting wire. The sound of the world is a distant, muffled roar of the city below, mixed with the high-pitched whistle of the wind through the steel beams. Cole stands on the edge of the roof, his fingers crackling with blue light, watching the man in the white coat wait for him in the center of the helipad. Fight with Kessler is a story of the mirror and the shadow. Kessler does not move like a normal man. He moves in flashes of white light, appearing and disappearing before Cole can even blink. The atmosphere is violent and fast, filled with the sound of explosions that shake the very foundation of the building. Kessler throws waves of energy that look like ghosts of the past, forcing Cole to use every bit of speed and power he has gathered from the 3 districts. This is a moment of total and grounded focus. The sound of the lightning clashing against Kessler's shields is a sharp, deafening crack that echoes across the entire city. Cole feels the heat of the energy on his skin and the vibration of the stone beneath his boots. This part of the history is a realization that to defeat the man who made him, Cole must become even more powerful than the one who gave him the spark. As the battle goes on, the rooftop begins to fall apart. The concrete cracks and the metal railings twist into strange shapes under the pressure of the 2 storms. Cole has to decide in the middle of the fight how much of himself he is willing to give up to win. The atmosphere is heavy and desperate, the air tasting like burnt copper and dry dust. He sees Kessler's eyes behind his mask, eyes that look tired and old, as if they have seen 1,000 years of war. This is a moment of deep and strange connection. The sound of Kessler's voice over the roar of the wind is a low and raspy whisper, telling Cole that he isn't ready for what is coming. When Cole finally lands a massive strike that brings the older man to the ground, the city falls into a sudden and heavy silence. The blue light from Cole's hands is the only thing illuminating the wreckage of the roof. The journey leads to the final revelation as Cole stands over the fallen Kessler. The man reaches out and touches Cole's head, sharing his memories in a single, painful flash of light. This part of the history is the story of the future that never happened. Cole sees visions of a monster called the Beast, a creature of shadow and fire that destroys the entire world because the Cole of another time was not strong enough to stop it. He realizes the truth that hits harder than any bolt of lightning. Kessler is Cole. He is a version of Cole from a dark future who traveled back in time to force his younger self to become a warrior, even if it meant destroying the city to do it. The air is still and carries the taste of salt and old regrets. The sound of Kessler's final breath is a soft sigh in the wind, a sign that the long wait is finally over, leaving the body of his future self behind. Cole walks to the edge of the building and looks out at Empire City. The sun is starting to rise over the ocean, casting a long, golden light over the ruins of the Neon, the Warren, and the historic district. This is a moment of quiet and absolute clarity. The atmosphere is somber and vast, a realization that the war Kessler was preparing him for is still coming. He feels the weight of the entire world on his shoulders, a burden that no one else can carry. This part of the history is a realization that he is no longer just a hero or a villain. He is a weapon built to save the future. He looks at his hands and sees the electricity pulsing under his skin, a blue flame that will never go out. The sound of the city waking up below him is a low and steady thrum, the sound of 1 million people waiting for a leader. The walk back down to the streets is a story of the new man. Cole encounters Zeke, his best friend, who looks at him with a mix of fear and respect. They do not say many words because the truth of what happened on the roof is too big for a simple conversation. This is a moment of quiet and grounded friendship. The atmosphere is cool and calm, a realization that even if the world is ending, some things stay the same. He feels the hardness of the pavement under his boots and the warmth of the morning sun on his back. This part of the history is a realization that the blast was only the beginning of the story. He stays with Zeke for a moment, watching the smoke rise from the crater one last time, listening to the sound of the distant gulls over the bay. The experience of the first journey ends with Cole standing in the middle of a busy street, the people parting around him as if he is a ghost. He has learned that power is not a gift, but a responsibility that can break a man if he isn't careful. He carries the weight of Kessler's memories and the knowledge of the monster that is coming from the south. The atmosphere is one of quiet and steady resolve, a realization that the path ahead is going to be even darker than the one he just finished. He is no longer the messenger who was afraid of the dark. The focus now shifts to the long road ahead and the preparation for the arrival of the beast. Cole prepares his heart for the next fight, knowing that he is the only shield the world has left. The final legacy of the first chapter of Empire City is a story of the man who became a legend by losing everything. You have seen the warrior walk through the fire and the betrayal to find the truth within his own soul. You have felt the sting of the cold and the weight of the future. As the morning light of the city fills your vision and the story of Cole MacGrath settles into your mind, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The journey has brought him to the end of the city, but it has also brought him to the start of his true destiny. Cole steps away from the wreckage, his boots making a solid sound on the road as he moves toward the horizon, ready to face the storm that is already on its way. Cole leaves the cold ash of Empire City behind and heads south to New Marais. It is a different kind of world down here, filled with thick, wet air and the smell of the swamp. Everything feels slower and heavier, like the city is slowly sinking into the dark mud. This part of the history is a story of a second chance. Cole is looking for a man named Wolf, a scientist who knows how to make Cole's lightning strong enough to stop the monster that is coming. The air tastes like salt and old river water. The sound of the world is the buzz of insects in the tall grass and the low roll of thunder over the bay. Cole walks onto the wooden docks, his boots making a dull thud on the wet planks. He realizes that while Empire City was made of stone and shadow, New Marais is made of wood and vines. The walk through the swampy edges of the city is a story of the shifting ground. The paths are made of mossy logs and rusted metal sheets that groan when you step on them. Cole has to be careful because the water is deep and dark, hiding things that have been changed by the blast. This is a moment of total and grounded focus. The only sound is the squelch of the mud and the occasional splash of something moving in the reeds. He feels the sticky heat on his skin and the weight of the humid air in his lungs. This part of the history is a realization that nature has its own kind of power. He finds an old power box on a telegraph pole and drains it, feeling the electricity jump into his arms. The blue sparks look bright against the deep green of the trees, turning the swamp into a glowing garden of light. In the middle of the town, Cole finds himself in a place called the Ascension Parish. The streets are narrow and lined with old houses that have iron balconies and colorful flags. But there is a group called the militia that rules the streets with guns and hatred. The fight is a story of the lightning against the lawless. The militia soldiers hide behind sandbags and on rooftops, firing at anything that looks different. Cole has to use the power lines to zip across the street, moving like a blur of blue light. The sound of the bullets hitting the stone walls is a sharp, tapping noise that echoes through the alleys. He has to decide if he will help the local people stand up for themselves or just keep moving to find his scientist. When the fight is over, the street is quiet again, except for the hum of the neon signs. The journey leads to a flooded district where the houses are half covered in black water. This is a place where the poor and the forgotten live on their roofs, connecting their homes with ropes and old ladders. Cole climbs up to the top of a tilted chimney, looking out at the city as the sun begins to set. The sky is a deep orange, and the air smells like wood smoke and spicy food. This part of the history is a story of the new neighbors. He meets two women, Kuo and Nyx, who have their own strange powers. One is cold like ice, and the other is hot like fire. The sound of the water rushing under the buildings is a constant, low roar. Cole feels the warmth of the evening sun on his back and the hardness of the bricks under his hands. This part of the history is a realization that he is not the only one who has been changed by the world. Deep in the heart of the marshes, Cole encounters monsters that look like they were made from the swamp itself. They are tall and twisted, with skin like tree bark, and eyes that glow with a sick yellow light. The fight is a story of the spark against the rot. These creatures are fast and strong, and they don't feel pain the way men do. The atmosphere is thick and misty, making it hard to see where the next attack is coming from. Cole has to stay on the move, jumping from roof to roof to stay out of the reach of their claws. The sound of his lightning hitting the monsters is a loud, sizzling pop that lights up the dark woods. When the last creature falls back into the water, Cole is left standing on a pier, his chest moving slowly as he catches his breath. He realizes the city is sifting through its own nightmares. Leaving the swamp, Cole walks through a quiet neighborhood where the trees are draped in long, gray moss that looks like old hair. He finds a small group of people trying to fix a broken boat so they can escape the city. They look at him with wide eyes, not sure if they should run or ask for help. He reaches out and touches the boat's engine, giving it a small jolt of power that makes it hum to life. This is a moment of simple and grounded kindness. The atmosphere is calm and sweet, a realization that even in a place this broken, people still want to find a way out. He feels the vibration of the engine in his hand and the coolness of the shade under the big trees. This part of the history is a realization that New Marais is a city that is trying to survive its own ending. The experience in the first part of the South ends with Cole standing at the top of a tall clock tower, looking toward the horizon. A giant wall of black clouds is moving toward the coast, and he knows that the beast is inside them. The heat and the mud have taught him that the world is much bigger and stranger than he thought. He carries the weight of the new friends he made and the mystery of the scientist he is looking for. The atmosphere is one of quiet and steady resolve, a realization that the real storm is finally here. He is no longer just a man from the north. He is becoming a part of the southern land. The focus now shifts to the industrial docks and the secrets of the man who runs the militia. Cole prepares himself for the next step of the journey, listening to the first few drops of rain hit the roof. The final legacy of the first days in New Marais is a story of the light that stays bright even in the thickest fog. You have seen the warrior walk through the mud and the moss to find the strength within his own heart. You have felt the sting of the heat and the weight of the coming storm. As the yellow light of the day fades into a deep purple night and the story of the second city begins to take shape, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The journey has brought him to a place of water and fire, and he is ready to see what happens next. Cole steps away from the tower, his boots making a soft sound on the wood as he heads back down into the street, ready to follow the lightning wherever it goes. The journey moves away from the mossy trees of the parish and heads toward the gasworks, the industrial heart of New Marais. This is a world of rusted pipes, massive shipping cranes, and metal towers that puff out thick, black smoke into the humid sky. Everything here feels heavy and solid, a place built for hard work that has been turned into a fortress for Bertrand's militia. This part of the history is a story of the big machines and the secrets they hide. Cole is looking for a way to get past the iron gates and find the truth about what the militia is doing to the people of the city. The air tastes like grease, coal, and the sharp tang of hot metal. The sound of the world is the constant grinding of gears and the deep, low thrum of the gas pumps. Cole walks along the high metal catwalks, his boots ringing out with a hollow sound against the steel. He realizes that while the swamp was a place of nature, the gasworks is a place where men try to control the world with fire and iron. The walk through the storage yards is a story of the hidden traps. The ground is covered in stacks of wooden crates and heavy oil drums that make it easy for enemies to hide in the shadows. Cole has to keep his eyes on the rooftops, where the militia has set up automated turrets that fire at anything that moves. This is a moment of total and grounded focus. The only sound is the hiss of steam from the pipes and the occasional click of a camera lens watching from a corner. He feels the heat of the machinery on his skin and the vibration of the engines in his feet. This part of the history is a realization that in the industrial port, everything is a weapon. He finds a high-voltage transformer near a warehouse and drains the spark, feeling the power surge through his shoulders and down to his fingertips. The blue light of his energy reflects off the polished metal of the tanks, turning the dark yard into a shimmering world of glass and steel. In the center of the port, Cole finds himself in a battle against the heavy hitters of the militia. They aren't just using rifles anymore. They have giant, walking tanks and soldiers wearing armored suits that can take a lot of punishment. The fight is a story of the lightning against the machine. The tanks fire rockets that turn the concrete into dust, creating loud explosions that shake the entire dock. Cole has to use his new moves, throwing grenades made of pure electricity to disable the electronics inside the metal monsters. The sound of the rockets whistling through the air is a sharp, scary noise that keeps him moving. He has to decide if he will use the heavy cranes to crush his enemies or find a way to take them down without causing a massive fire in the gas lines. When the battle is over, the yard is filled with the smell of burnt wires and the quiet hiss of escaping air. The journey leads to a massive refinery tower where Joseph Bertrand is keeping his most dangerous experiments. This is a place of white lights and clean floors that feels out of place in the middle of the dirty port. Cole climbs the outside of the tower, his hands finding grips on the cold metal ladders and the thick cables. He hears the humming of computers and the bubbling of strange liquids inside the glass walls. This part of the history is a story of the monster behind the man. He realizes that Bertrand isn't just a leader who hates powers. He is someone who is trying to create his own version of the blast. The air is still and smells like a doctor's office at the top of the tower. Cole looks out over the water, seeing the lights of the city flickering in the distance. He feels the hardness of the steel under his boots and the weight of the secret he is about to uncover. Deep in the heart of the refinery, Cole sees something that changes everything. He finds a giant creature trapped in a cage, a beast made of pulsing flesh and glowing eyes that looks like a nightmare come to life. He realizes the truth. Bertrand is the one turning people into monsters so he can have an enemy to fight and keep his power. The fight that follows is a story of the truth coming to light. Bertrand uses his influence to turn the machines of the tower against Cole, trying to bury the secret under a mountain of fire. The atmosphere is hot and frantic, with the sound of alarms ringing and metal tearing. Cole moves with a fast and steady grace, using his lightning to short-circuit the control panels and open the cages. The sound of the electricity hitting the main computer is a loud, final pop that goes dark. When the dust settles, Cole is left standing in the wreckage, realizing that the man he is fighting is more of a monster than the beast itself. Leaving the refinery, Cole walks through a quiet part of the docks where the old fishing boats are tied up. He encounters a group of workers who were forced to help Bertrand and are now hiding in the shadows. They look at him with a mix of relief and sadness, knowing that their city has been used for something terrible. He reaches out and touches a broken radio on a nearby crate, giving it enough power to play a soft, slow song from the local station. This is a moment of simple and grounded peace. The atmosphere is somber and calm, a realization that the truth is a heavy thing to carry. He feels the cool breeze from the ocean on his face and the softness of the old ropes under his hands. This part of the history is a realization that even in a place of machines, the human spirit is what matters most. He stays with the workers until the sun starts to go down, listening to the sound of the water against the hulls. The experience in the industrial port ends with Cole standing at the very edge of a pier, looking across the bay at the final part of New Marais. The rust and the fire have taught him that the real danger isn't always the one you can see coming from the sky. He carries the weight of Bertrand's secret and the knowledge that the war is about to get much more personal. The atmosphere is one of quiet and steady resolve, a realization that he has to stop the man who is hurting the city from the inside. He is no longer just looking for a scientist. He is fighting for the soul of the South. The focus now shifts to the final showdown in the heart of the city and the arrival of the beast. Cole prepares himself for the next fight, listening to the low, distant roar of the storm that is finally reaching the shore. The final legacy of the gasworks is a story of the light that reveals the dark things hidden in the shadows. You have seen the warrior walk through the pipes and the fire to find the truth within the machine. You have felt the sting of the metal and the weight of the secret. As the black smoke of the port fades into the night and the story of the final battle begins to take shape, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The journey has brought him to the center of the conspiracy, and he is ready to end it. Cole steps away from the water, his boots making a solid sound on the wood as he heads back toward the city ready to face whatever comes next with the lightning in his hand. The journey moves back into the heart of New Marais, where the old stone plazas and the tall cathedrals stand waiting for the end. This is the moment where the city becomes a battlefield, and the air is thick with the feeling that everything is about to change. This part of the history is a story of the final stand against Joseph Bertrand and his militia. Cole is no longer just a stranger in town. He is the only one standing between the people and a man who has turned his own city into a laboratory for monsters. The air tastes like rain, gunpowder, and the heavy scent of incense from the open church doors. The sound of the world is the ringing of the great bronze bells and the distant, rhythmic marching of soldiers through the streets. Cole walks along the stone balconies, his fingers buzzing with a blue light that looks like a small star in the growing dark. He realizes that while the docks were about machines, the city center is about the people who have nowhere else to go. The walk through the cathedral plaza is a story of the quiet before the storm. The ground is made of white stone that reflects the moonlight, and the tall statues of saints look down with silent eyes. Cole has to stay high up on the rooftops, moving between the gargoyles and the clock faces to avoid the malicious snipers who have taken over the towers. This is a moment of total and grounded focus. The only sound is the whistling of the wind through the stone arches and the soft hum of the city's power lines. He feels the coolness of the marble on his hands and the steady beat of his own heart in his chest. This part of the history is a realization that a city is more than its buildings. It is a memory that deserves to be protected. He finds a large power transformer on top of a theater and drains the energy, feeling the blue sparks dance across his shoulders like tiny insects. The light turns the white stone of the plaza into a sea of glowing silver, showing the way forward. In the center of the district, Cole faces Bertrand's final army. It is not just soldiers anymore. The militia has brought out their biggest weapons, including massive beams of light that can track Cole across the sky. The fight is a story of the lightning against the wall of fire. Bertrand himself appears, showing his true face as a giant, multi-legged monster that towers over the buildings, a creature made of the very infection he claimed to hate. The sound of the monster's roar is a deep, vibrating thud that makes the glass in the windows shatter. Cole has to use the tall spires of the cathedral to stay above the reach of the beast's claws, firing massive bolts of electricity into its glowing weak spots. The sound of the lightning hitting the monster's hide is a sharp, crackling explosion that lights up the entire city. When the fight is over, the monster falls into the streets with a sound like a collapsing building, leaving the air smelling of ozone and wet earth. The journey leads to the top of the tallest hotel in the city, where Cole and his friends gather to watch the horizon. This is the place where they prepare for the arrival of the beast, the creature that destroyed Empire City and has been walking south ever since. Cole stands on the edge of the helipad, his jacket flapping in the wind. He hears the voices of Q and Nix as they argue about the best way to save the world, one wanting to use logic and the other wanting to use heart. This part of the history is a story of the heavy choice. He realizes that he cannot save everyone, and that the power he carries is a burden that will eventually demand a price. The air is cold and carries the taste of salt from the nearby ocean. Cole looks out at the dark water, seeing the massive wall of clouds finally touching the edge of the city. He feels the vibration of the sky in his bones and the hardness of the concrete under his boots. Deep in the heart of the city, Cole finds a small park where the children are playing near a fountain that has no water. He encounters an old man sitting on a bench, a man who remembers the city before the sickness and the war. The man doesn't look at Cole with fear, but with a quiet kind of gratitude. Cole reaches out and touches the base of the fountain, sending a gentle pulse of electricity into the old pumps until the water begins to flow and sparkle in the light. This is a moment of simple and grounded peace. The atmosphere is calm and soft, a realization that even at the end of the world, there is still room for a small bit of beauty. He feels the mist of the water on his face and the warmth of the old man's smile. This part of the history is a realization that he is fighting for the moments that don't make it into the history books. He stays in the park for a few minutes, listening to the sound of the water and the distant thunder. The experience in the city center ends with Cole standing at the very top of the cathedral's highest cross, looking at the black shadow that is moving across the bay. The battle with Bertrand has taught him that even the most powerful men can be destroyed by their own lies. He carries the weight of the city's hope and the knowledge that he is the only one who can stand against the darkness. The atmosphere is one of quiet and steady resolve, a realization that the time for talking is over. He is no longer just a survivor. He is the guardian of the South. The focus now shifts to the final arrival of the beast and the ultimate choice that will decide the fate of every human on Earth. Cole prepares himself for the final fight, watching as the first red embers of the beast's fire begin to light up the clouds on the horizon. The final legacy of the city center is a story of the light that stands firm when the world begins to crumble. You have seen the warrior walk through the plazas and the fire to find the strength within his own soul. You have felt the sting of the battle and the weight of the crown. As the white stone of the cathedral fades into the shadows of the coming storm, and the story of the final day begins to take shape, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The journey has brought him to the end of the road, and he is ready to face the truth. Cole steps away from the edge of the tower, his boots making a solid sound on the roof as he heads down to meet his friends, ready to face the monster with the lightning in his hand and the city at his back. The journey reaches its most difficult moment as the beast finally arrives at the edges of New Marais, turning the sky into a wall of red fire and black smoke. This is the end of the long road that started in the crater of Empire City, and now the world is watching to see if the storm can be stopped. This part of the history is a story of the final meeting between two giants. The beast is a creature of shadow and flame, a walking mountain of heat that leaves nothing but ash in its path. Air here is boiling and tastes like sulfur, dry dust, and the sharp, metallic tang of burning iron. The sound of the world is a deep, constant roar that feels like the earth is being torn apart, making the entire city of New Marais feel like a small leaf caught in a forest fire. Cole stands on the beach, his skin humming with a blue light that is the only thing standing against the red glow of the horizon. He realizes that the monster he is looking at is the future he has been trying to run away from. The walk through the burning streets of the docks is a story of the final struggle. The ground is covered in glowing embers, and the water in the bay is starting to steam from the heat of the beast's footsteps. Cole has to move through the ruins of the buildings he once protected, using the power lines that are now melting under the intense temperature. This is a moment of total and grounded focus. The only sound is the cracking of the wood and the loud, rhythmic thud of the beast getting closer to the city center. He feels the scorching heat on his face and the dry pressure in his lungs as he tries to breathe the smoky air. This part of the history is a realization that some things cannot be fixed with just a spark. He finds a massive generator near the old lighthouse and drains every bit of energy from it, feeling his own power grow until his eyes glow with a pure white light. The blue arcs of electricity jump between his hands, carving a path through the smoke and showing him the way to the final fight. In the middle of the city, Cole meets the beast in a battle that levels the skyscrapers and turns the stone plazas into glass. It is not like the fights with the gangs or the machines. This is a battle of two suns colliding. The beast throws spheres of gravity that pull the buildings into the air, and Cole responds with storms of lightning that turn the night into day. The sound of the energy hitting the beast's skin is a deafening boom that can be heard for miles. He has to stay high up, jumping between the pieces of floating debris and the tops of the sinking towers to stay out of the fire. The atmosphere is frantic and heavy, the air tasting like burnt copper and old memories. Cole realizes that the beast isn't just a monster. It is a man who was once like him, someone who thinks they are doing the right thing by ending the old world to save the few who have powers. The journey leads to a quiet moment on the roof of the old cathedral, where Cole has to make the choice that will change history. He holds the RFI in his hands, a device that can destroy the beast and cure the plague, but it will also kill every person with powers on Earth, including Cole himself. He looks at his friends, Kuo and Nyx, and sees the two paths he can take. One wants to use the device to save humanity, even if it means dying. The other wants to join the beast and lead the conduits into a new world where they are the masters. This is a moment of pure and heavy moral weight. The sound of the device humming in his hands is a soft vibration that feels like a heartbeat. He looks at the people of the city hiding in the shadows below, and he realizes that being a hero isn't about having power, but about knowing when to let it go. Leaving the choice for a second, Cole walks through the ruins of a small library where the books are scattered like white birds on the floor. He encounters a young girl who is holding a small, stuffed toy, her eyes reflecting the red fire of the sky. She doesn't ask him to save the world, she just asks if the rain will ever come back to wash away the smoke. This is a moment of simple and grounded connection. The atmosphere is somber and quiet, a realization that the world is made of small things that are easily broken. He feels the roughness of the burnt paper under his boots and the warmth of the fire on his back. This part of the history is a realization that his story was never about the lightning. It was about the people who needed the light. He stays with the girl for a minute, holding a small spark of blue light in his hand to show her that the dark hasn't won yet. The experience of the final day ends with Cole standing at the very top of the highest point in New Marais, the RFI glowing in his hands like a captured star. The battle with the beast has left the city in ruins, but the spirit of the people is still there, waiting for him to decide their fate. He carries the weight of everyone who died in the blast and everyone who is sick with the plague. The atmosphere is one of quiet and absolute resolve, a realization that the time for running is over. He is no longer just a messenger or a warrior. He is the judge of the world. The focus now shifts to the final activation of the device and the ultimate ending of the legend of Cole MacGrath. Cole prepares his heart for the final act, watching as the beast reaches out a hand of fire, waiting for an answer. The final legacy of the journey through the South is a story of the man who had to decide if his own life was worth more than the world's future. You have seen the warrior walk through the mud, the fire, and the betrayal to find the strength to do what is right. You have felt the sting of the heat and the weight of the crown. As the red light of the beast fills the sky and the story of New Marais reaches its highest point, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The journey has brought him to the very edge of existence, and he is ready to step off. Cole stands his ground, his fingers tight on the machine, ready to give the world one last spark of hope before the light goes out forever. The journey reaches its final step on the deck of a small boat in the middle of the bay, as the morning sun begins to struggle through the thick, black smoke of the final battle. This is the moment where the legend of Cole MacGrath finds its resting place, and the story of the Lightning Man becomes a memory that will be told for generations. The air here is finally starting to cool, carrying the scent of salt water, wet sand, and the faint, clean smell of a world that is trying to breathe again. The sound of the world is the soft lapping of the waves against the wood of the boat, and the distant, muffled sound of the city waking up to a day it didn't think it would see. Cole sits on the edge of the deck, his body feeling heavier than it ever has before, a realization that the spark he has carried since Empire City is finally starting to fade. He looks at the city of New Marais and sees the smoke rising from the ruins, but he also sees the first birds returning to the trees. The final activation of the device is a story of the ultimate sacrifice. Cole holds the RFI in his lap, the metal cold and solid against his hands, knowing that turning it on will be the last thing he ever does. This is a moment of total and grounded peace. The atmosphere is quiet and vast, as if the whole world is holding its breath to watch him. He thinks about the long road he has traveled, from the bike messenger in the crater to the man who fought giants in the swamp. Sound of the machine starting up is a low and steady hum that grows into a beautiful, ringing note that fills the air. He feels the electricity being pulled out of his bones, a sensation that is not painful, but feels like a long, deep sigh. This part of the history is a realization that he was always meant to be a bridge, a way for the world to cross over from the darkness into the light. The blue energy leaves his body in a massive wave of light, spreading across the ocean and the land like a new sunrise. As the light from the device travels around the world, the atmosphere shifts to one of global healing. You see the people in the hospitals of Empire City and the shacks of New Marais suddenly standing up, the black marks of the plague fading from their skin as if they were never there. The beast, the creature of fire and shadow, dissolves into a cloud of warm ash that the wind carries away into the sea. This is the era of the human return, where the world is given back to the people who don't have powers. The sound of the wind through the city's broken windows is a soft and musical chord, a sign that the storm has passed. Cole lies back on the deck of the boat, his eyes looking up at the sky as the clouds finally break apart to show the deep blue of the morning. He feels the hardness of the wood under his back and the warmth of the sun on his face, a feeling of total and absolute completion. The journey leads to the final memory held by his best friend, Zeke. Zeke is the one who carries Cole's body back to the shore, walking through the crowds of people who are crying and cheering at the same time. This part of the history is the story of the true hero's reward. Zeke doesn't say anything as he places a simple lightning bolt marker on the grave, a realization that some stories are too big for words. The air is still and carries the taste of fresh rain and hope. The sound of the waves hitting the beach is a rhythmic and comforting thrum, making the shore feel like a place of rest. Cole's story has become a part of the city itself, a realization that even though the man is gone, the light he brought will never truly leave. Zeke stands there for a long time, watching the sun go down over the water, listening to the sound of the world continuing to turn. Leaving the grave behind, the story moves through the years as the city is rebuilt. You see the new parks where the children play, and the new buildings made of glass and stone that reach for the sky. The people of New Marais never forget the man who gave everything to save them. They build a statue in the center of the plaza, showing a man with a messenger bag and a hand full of stars. This is a moment of quiet and grounded legacy. The atmosphere is bright and steady, a realization that the sacrifice was worth the price. The sound of the city life, the cars, the laughter, and the music is the song that Cole died to protect. He has become a legend that keeps the dark at bay, a story that mothers tell their children when they are afraid of the thunder. The air is always clean now, carrying the scent of the sea and the flowers that grow in the spots where the fire used to be. The walk through the final memory is a story of the spark that remains. Even though the device was supposed to take away all the powers, there are still stories of a blue light seen in the distance during a storm, or a hand that feels like it's humming with energy. This is a moment of raw and mysterious hope. The atmosphere is soft and electric, a realization that some things are too strong to be fully extinguished. You feel the lightness of the spirit and the steady beat of the world's heart as you reach the end of the history. This part of the history is a realization that Cole MacGrath was not just a man with powers. He was a reminder that one person can change the direction of the future. The sound of a single bolt of lightning hitting the water in the distance is a sharp and final note, a sign that the story is never truly over. The experience of the infamous journey ends with a view of the city at night, the lights of the buildings twinkling like a sea of stars. The lightning of the hero has led to a sovereignty of the people. He carries the weight of the past into the peace of the future. The atmosphere is one of quiet and absolute resolution, a realization that the path of the warrior has found its home. The history of Empire City and New Marais finds its final and grounded resolution in the quiet streets and the safe homes, leaving behind the war for a world of simple human life. The story has reached its end, and the lightning is at rest. The final legacy of Cole MacGrath is a story of the beauty in the choice to be good. You have seen the warrior walk through the ash, the mud, and the fire to find the strength to save a world that was afraid of him. You have felt the sting of the heat and the weight of the sacrifice. As the blue light of the memory settles into your mind, and the story of the lightning man fades into the long, peaceful sleep of the night, you feel a sense of simple and sacred purpose. The journey has brought you to the end of the world and back again, and now you carry the spark within yourself. The city is quiet, the sky is clear, and the story is finally yours to keep.